So in the last video, we stopped with changing the settings for physics, the Brownian, and the DAMP. Now, mine may look a little different from the last video. I accidentally didn't save or something happened. So I had to start from scratch and I didn't go through and get all the numbers the same because for what we're doing next, if my numbers are a little different than yours, it's not going to really affect anything. So right now we have particles coming from the surface of our circle, and those particles are called halos. We can see that in the settings if we go down to render in the particle tab, and it's rendering as halos. And basically halos don't show up by default when you render unless you do some other things. But we want a little more control, so we're going to add a mesh icosphere, and we're just going to move that down on the z-axis below our particle system. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. I'm going to select the particles, and we're going to look at the render setting and switch render, change halo to object, and now you'll see there's nothing coming out because we haven't told it the object. And we'll click here and we'll select icosphere, and now you can see that those icospheres are coming out. So your default settings are probably 1 and 0 here where you see scale and scale randomness. So scale means that 1 will make it the size of the original object. And actually, now that I think about it, the default value is probably a smaller amount. So you may actually see something that looks more like this, but we're going to change the scale to 1. And then you'll notice that all of these are the same size as our original. And if we scale this, that will change the size of our particles. And notice that they're all the same. So if we go to this next value that says scale randomize, we're going to change that to 1. And now it's going to vary those where they're this size or smaller down to a certain percentage. And 1 is the max value that you can put in. And it looks like from that size all the way down to very, very small particles. Okay. Now, we want to actually have a few more particles of different sizes so we get a little more variety in what we're seeing. So we're going to duplicate this icosphere until we have a total of 5. And we'll leave the first one as it is. Select the second one, hit S to scale, 0.8, enter. We'll make that 80% the size of the original. Scale 0.6, that'll make it 60%. Scale 0.4 for 40%. Scale 0.2 for 20%. Now let's go ahead and select all of them. Press the letter M to move to a collection. Make a new collection called particle. Let's do smoke particles and hit create. So now these are all in a group. And if we go back to our particle system, we go down to render. We're looking at render as, and we'll change the object to a collection. Come down to instance collection, select our smoke particles. And by default, I think these are turned off, but we want to select pick random. So it's going to randomly pick one of these objects to put for each particle. Okay. So next we're going to give our smoke some grayness, and it's going to change based on how long it's been on the screen, its lifetime. So let's switch. I'm in the shading tab. You may not be in that tab. So if not, switch the shading tab and let's switch to render view. And by default, you are in Eevee. So this is what you should be seeing at the moment. So we're going to select our particles. And I will say, I think your background is probably gray. So we can go ahead and select the world icon and change this to white so you can see things a little bit better. Okay, that should make everything the same as what you're seeing, I hope. Um, we have these particles all selected. I want to make sure that one of them is the active object and not our smoke emitter. So one of these should be a lighter color outline. So we're going to press new, and then real quick, we'll hit Control L to link the material to all the others. So that way, when we change one, all of them change. Okay, so we're going to set this up so that when they first come out, they're really dark. And over time, they get lighter and they start to disappear or become transparent. So to do that, we're going to need the color ramp. So we'll put that here to the left of the principled BSDF. We're going to need a math node, which we'll put left of the color ramp. And then last, we'll need a particle info node. So that gives us these 3 more nodes. And we're going to go ahead and plug the color ramp into the base color. We're going to plug the output of the math node into the factor of the color ramp. We're going to change the math node to divide. And then we're going to look at the particle info. So we're looking at the age and the lifetime. So lifetime is, I'll show you that real quick. So we're looking at the lifetime is this number. So however long we say each one will last. And then if we have it set to random, it will take that into account for each particle. So that lifetime is going to be our bottom value. So I think I had that set to 100. The age is how many frames has that individual particle been on the screen. So it might be on there 1, it might be on there 10, 20, 50, 75, all the way up to 100. So we're going to plug that in. So what's happening is that if a particle has been on the screen for 0 frames, we'll say 1 frame, and the lifetime is 100, it's going to give us a value of 1% or 0.01 on the color ramp. If that particle has been on the screen for 50 frames, so it'll be 50 frames divided by 100 will give us 0.5 on the color ramp. If a particle has been on the screen 99 frames, divided by 100 will give us 0.99 here on the white side. So you can see white is positioned at 1, black is positioned at 0. Now, you'll notice that we're not really seeing any difference on our screen. That's because this particle info node only works with the color ramp, or not the color ramp, I'm sorry, with Cycles Render Engine. So let's go to the render tab and we're going to switch this to cycles. Now you can see that we have a variety of values of our particles as they're coming out. So I'm going to change this, or add to this, I should say. I'm going to hit the plus sign. And I will say this, you've noticed that I've paused and started this without clicking anything. The space bar is the shortcut to start and stop animations. So I want the black to extend up a little farther into the ones that have been emitted. I want the ones near the middle of their lifetime to be a little bit darker. And I'm going to slide that over. So we don't really get to white until near the very end of their life. And the reason we're doing that, we're also going to use this as a tool to make them turn transparent or seem to disappear as the smoke is dissipating through the cycle. So we're going to use the color ramp as a tool to mask or change them through a mixed shader. So we're going to add a mixed shader and plug that in between the output and the principal BSDF. And I think we need to leave this on the top. We'll switch it if we need to. Next, we're going to search for a transparent BSDF, plug that into the bottom. And what we should be seeing is that the lighter ones are becoming more transparent and the ones that are pure white pretty much disappear. So let's look at this again from the front. And I would like to have the black last a little bit longer. Something like that. And actually, I have this reversed. These do need to switch. I think. Something doesn't look right. Let me see what I have done. I'm going to pause this real quick and come back once I figure out my mistake. Okay, I realize I just forgot a step, something very obvious. I forgot to take the color ramp and plug that into the factor for the mix shader. And I believe I now need to switch these back, and that should, there we go. So our transparent is going to be plugged into the bottom of the mix shader. Our principal BSDF will be the top of the two shaders, and our color ramp is going into the factor so that the ones coming out first are really dark, and then as they go up, they become lighter and start to disappear. So let's kind of wrap up by preparing this to be assets. So let's select our actual particle system and let's name that smoke particle system. And we're going to right click and mark that as an asset. Then let's select our smoke particles. Let's right click and mark that as an asset so we can bring them in separately. I think that if we only bring in the particle system, it will still have the icospheres attached to it and emit those. But if we need to adjust the material setting, we'll have to bring this in separately, if I'm not mistaken. And once you have that done, go ahead and save your file, and then we'll move on to the next project in the next video.